In December of 1991, my parents bought me a copy of Your Sinclair magazine. Something of a treat because it rarely ever happened. I believe the main reason for allowing me to get this particular edition is simply because it had the turtles on the front cover, and like any kid alive at that time, I was absolutely obsessed with the turtles and their poorly animated hijinks.
Cowabunga, fellow turtles, my forehead has entered the void.
But it wasn't the Heroes in a Half Shell that changed my life that day. It was, in fact, an exclusively created demo from Big Red Software, featuring their unfairly forgotten Definitely Not Dizzy mascot, Seymour. In this particular instance, it was Seymour Take One, a taster of what could be had from the full-price game Seymour at the Movies. Now, I can't really position this video as a review because there's barely anything in the demo at all. You pick up a reel of film, you pick up a knife, you accidentally press Q on the lift and kill yourself, then you do all that again, but this time press M on the lift so you go down instead of committing seppuku. You speak to a working girl? Roxanne! Who is a receptionist and not what the title implies, and she informs you that everyone else has left the studio, but a scene for the film needs to be shot. The idea is to try and time everything perfectly in order to complete the demo. You tie up the damsel, you load up the film, you set the train off, you free the damsel, you go back to the camera and realise you forgot to start the bastard thing, and then you do it all over again, but this time you start the bloody film. Once done, you take that film to be developed, which I'm not sure is technically accurate, then you take the developed film to a cinema screen, and something magical happens. You get to watch the film you just made. Everything that happens from the moment that camera starts rolling is captured. Every jump, every action, every frame. It absolutely blew me away at the age of 8 years old. For months, I would load this tape up and I would go through the motions of picking up the required items before coming back to this scene and creating a new film. A new, exceptionally short film because the reel only lasts for about 6 seconds. It didn't matter. I was hooked. I'd do my own little scripts, I'd drop items on the track, I'd kill Seymour, or I'd get a cassette player and I'd play music over the top while I made Seymour dance. For 6 seconds. Yes, there were limitations, massive limitations, but at the age of 8, it really didn't matter. I'd always been a fan of film, that is, to take part in the watching of things, but never really contemplated that a human being made those things. This was the first time I'd ever been able to make one myself, and it made me realize that this was a created product, however small and rubbish it may have been. When my family eventually got a video camera, I started to make claymation using blue tack, of all things, stopping and starting the camera to capture one frame at a time as I painstakingly spent hours making a 6-second video. Who knew animation could be so difficult and slow? Regardless, I made hundreds of them, mostly involving a piece of blue tack turning into something, or something dying horrifically. As you can see from the images on screen, my obsession with making crap using blue tack apparently never died. Growing up, I made crappy little films, I narrated stories, I pretended to be a presenter, I did whatever I could think of in the capacity of a child's mind, aping what I'd seen on TV. But I was a child who had no audience, and no real idea of what I was doing outside enjoying myself. A lot of the stuff I made has, sadly, been lost to the mists of time, a layer of VHS tape long since turned to stardust, but there are a couple of random videos I've been able to pull back from the void. These from when I was older, admittedly, but still very much attached to making something, anything. The first of which is a school project that also wasn't really a school project. At the age of around 16, we were tasked with making something that conveyed the message of
drugs are bad, you shouldn't do drugs, if you do them, you're bad.
And while everyone else set their sights on the boring heights of doing a poster, me and my friends immediately jumped on the idea of doing a film. We had no idea what we were going to do or how it would play out, but we knew that a film was going to be the medium for the anti-drugs message, and we were going to make it weird. After weeks of work and plenty of throwing things together last minute, we produced Don't Do Drugs the Musical, a puppet-based black comedy drama about a dog called Timmy who gets addicted to cheese thanks to a dairy-pushing reindeer. The story follows our young hero through a tumultuous start in life. His mother and father are dead, he finds out his granddad is being sent to jail for doing something unspecified, but it's implied that he may have killed a beggar in an alleyway. Then our plucky young pup injects liquidized Babybel at a party, followed by a terrifying 10-minute drug overdose scene.
So we'll just close the flap.
Did I mention this was a musical?
My name is Timmy. My mom is dead. My only friends are my Jaffa cakes.
It's fun to take drugs, yes it is. It's fun to take drugs, yes it is. They are nice and tasty, and they don't spoil your meals, and they make you more attractive to the bitches.
Yes, we showed this off at school, and yes, for some reason, the teachers at the time seemed to love it. I've no idea how we got away with it. I think there are multiple scenes in which someone shouts sexual references at random, because of course they do. We were 16. Sex was all the rage back then. Not for us, unfortunately. We were too busy making Requiem for a Dream in puppet form. Most of the scenes in the short runtime are ad-libbed outside the songs, but it didn't matter. We'd made something, and the handful of terrified children who got to see it in action during class that day were all the better for it. Scarred. Lastly, I also found some footage of me, at the age of 18 or so, in a black bin bag with paper eyes attached to it, the first in a series of videos called Barry the Ghost, a famous ghost actor from Newcastle. No, I've got no idea either.
Hello there, I'm Barry the Ghost, and welcome to this question and answer thing which Channel 4's asked me to do for him, called I'm Barry the Ghost.
Film, TV, visual media in general, it's always fascinated me, but it always felt like a side project, something I did to amuse myself. Now we're sat here in the land of the future, and the idea of making something that others can see, something I can put together and throw on the internet within a week, it still feels like an enormous privilege, a chance to put myself in front of people and say, "Hey you, have a look at this stupid thing I made. Don't worry if you don't understand what I'm on about, I'm enjoying myself." And then, by some miracle, other people enjoy it. Apart from these three guys. For the longest time, I either didn't have the capacity to make something for an audience due to technical limitations, or I didn't have the bravado to put whatever I'd made out in the open because I was terrified of being seen at all. Something, at some point, changed in my life, and I pushed past all that, but that's perhaps a story for another time. The point is, it all started here, with a woman tied to the train tracks and a 6-second recording time. I asked Alfred Williams about the game, and he was kind enough to respond.
Seymour Take 1 is, even now, one of my favourite things I've ever written. Its origins are, of course, from Dizzy 4, where we were asked to do a demo of the first couple of puzzles, which was a silly idea, so we went with a bespoke demo instead, designed and implemented in 2 days flat. I designed Take 1 over a weekend, starting with the idea that you've got to shoot the film, tie the heroine to the track, set the camera and train off and do the rescue. And it swiftly became, why not let you film whatever and play it back? Which changed it from a solve the puzzles and you're done thing to a how many ways can you get it wrong, replayable thing.
I asked a follow-up question. Did you ever consider that people would use the game the way I did? That they'd spend months putting together crappy little videos?
Not at all. Obviously, I knew it was a thing that could be messed around with, but no, I had no idea people would spend months with it.
Well, Mr. Williams, now you know. My roots in video editing can be traced back to a weekend of coding from a ZX Spectrum developer. Unfortunately, I can't explain where my roots in dog-based drug musicals or retired Geordie actor ghosts comes from, but perhaps that's for the best.
Young dog, doesn't need to be down, I say young dog. He's seven on the ground, I say young dog. Cause you need a new reel, there's no need to be unhappy. Yeah. It's fun to take drugs, yes it is. It's fun to take drugs, yes it is. They are nice and tasty, and they don't spoil your meals, and they make you more attractive to the bitches. Young dog, join me please, I say young dog. all the cool people do. I say, young dog, you'll be popular too. You do sell you sub right now, cause